This video will demonstrate how to use the Implicit Pattern tool in Altair Inspire. To pattern implicit bodies, use the Implicit Pattern tool, which can be found on the Implicit Modeling ribbon. Select the object you want to pattern, and there are three types of pattern available: rectangular, circular, and point cloud pattern. The rectangular pattern allows you to pattern along up to 3 directions. Choose how many directions you want to use, and then select an axis for each direction. The third direction will be orthogonal to the first 2 chosen directions. Enter a spacing between each copy and the number of copies to create the required pattern objects. To create a rectangular pattern along a parameterized space made from a set of curves and/or surfaces, select the Create Conformal option in the Conform to drop-down. This will enter the conform context, where you can create a parameterized definition of a 1, 2, or 3-dimensional space by defining the U, V, and W components. For a 1-dimensional parameterization, select the Curve tab and then select the curve you want to pattern along. With this setup, you can use the curve's definition to pattern from the selected object using either parameterized spacing or actual length spacing. For a 2-dimensional parameterization, first select the Surface tab. There are 2 methods to choose from. The first method is to select a surface to directly use its UV parameters. The second method is to build a virtual surface using 2 curves. Use the U and V curve selectors to pick which curves to use in building the UV parameterization. With either method, you can pattern the selected object along the UV mapped space with a number of copies and spacing for each direction. For a 3-dimensional parameterization, first select the Volume tab. Again, there are 2 methods to choose from. The first method is to select a surface to directly use its UV parameters and a curve to build the W parameterization away from the surface. The second method is to build a virtual volume using 3 curves. Use the U, V, and W curve selectors to pick which curves to use in building the 3-dimensional parameterization. It is also possible to create a circular pattern around an axis. There are 2 modes for circular pattern. One is the number of copies method, where you specify the angle between each copy and the number of copies to make. The other is the equal spacing method, where you specify the total angle for the pattern and then specify the number of copies to equally space along the total angle. Finally, there is the ability to pattern to a point cloud. Either select an existing point cloud or create a new one using the drop-down. The first point in the point cloud will be used as the anchor point for the first copy. By default, this will be in the center of the bounding box of that object. Subsequent copies can be created or deleted by adding or removing points from the table, and copies can be moved around by selecting a point and using the Move tool to translate the point, or by manually editing the coordinates in the table. Use the green tick to accept the point cloud and again to accept the pattern.